Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paul Steinman. I'm the District 7 Secretary for the Florida Department of Transportation, and we'd like to welcome you to our I-275 event today. We're very excited to have U.S. DOT Secretary Foxx with us today to tour the project and see all that we have going on here in the greater Tampa Bay area. This I-275 project was part of a bigger Tampa Interstate study that was started back in the late 1980s, and basically this is one of 4 projects that is on target to finish and come to fruition for that particular interstate study. The projects that we have completed so far include the operational interchange improvements at I-75 and I-4, I-275 and I-4, the I-4 improvements between 275 and 50th, and the project we opened in last December, the I-4 Sumlin Connector. This I-275 project goes from State Route 60 to the downtown area and is slated for completion in early 2016. Commerce is what makes an economy thrive, and projects like this provide the type of mobility needed to grow the greater Tampa Bay area, to grow our businesses, and to increase tourism. With that, it's my pleasure to be the MC for the program, and I'd like to introduce Tampa's Mayor, Mr. Bob Buckhorn.
Secretary Steinman, thanks. First of all, let me welcome a good friend of mine, somebody who shared with me as the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, the experience of hosting a national political convention 2 years ago, and I couldn't think of a better partner to have gone through that with than the now Secretary of Transportation, Anthony Foxx. When Anthony was chosen as secretary from the mayors around the country, there was a great cheer because one of our own was now elevated to a point in the cabinet in Washington, D.C. to make decisions that will affect the quality of life of the cities that we govern and that Secretary Foxx used to govern. And there is nobody but better than a mayor to understand how important infrastructure is. There's nobody better than a mayor to recognize the importance of the investment in projects like this, in projects like the Tampa International Airport, in projects like the Port of Tampa. Not only does it create jobs for the people that we represent, jobs for our friends and for our neighbors and for our family members, but investment in infrastructure is the lifeblood of what makes cities run. Without infrastructure, you have no economic development. Without infrastructure, you have no ability to move around the urban areas. Without infrastructure, be it bricks and mortar like roads or sewers or water facilities, or infrastructure like airports and ports, we can't compete as a region without the investment by the federal government in projects like this. Our partners at the state level, our partners at the federal level, are really what make projects like this happen, and that's why it is so important, and you're going to hear the Secretary talk about this shortly, that we continue to fund infrastructure, that we continue to invest in transportation, that we continue to pass a transportation bill that will fund the trust fund and allow us to correct the billions of dollars that we are currently in a deficit on when it comes to infrastructure around this country. We need a Marshall Plan for infrastructure. We need to rebuild the basic bricks and mortar, the foundation that makes this country what it is today. This bill and projects like this are a beginning of that. So all of us as mayors, I can certainly tell you, are going to get behind what the Secretary is doing in Washington, D.C. We've got to pass that transportation bill. We've got to do it sooner rather than later, and we've got to continue to add to that trust fund to complement what Secretary Prasad is doing at the state level, as well as what we are doing here at the local level. So, Secretary, welcome to Tampa, Florida. It's always good to see you, a fellow mayor, and more importantly, my friend. Thanks, Secretary. Next up is another partner for ours, the Secretary of the Florida Department of Transportation, Secretary Prasad.
Thank you, Mayor. Always good to be in Tampa. And look at the congestion right behind us, and that makes you realize why we make some of these improvements. Really appreciative of Secretary Foxx taking time and visiting the state of Florida and kind of the infrastructure investments we're making. Governor Scott and I have been very much supportive of trying to make sure that we invest in our infrastructure. I often tell Senator Joyner here, who serves on the Senate Transportation Committee, she's heard me speak to this, that access to good quality jobs, access to good quality living, access to good quality healthcare won't happen if you don't have access to good quality infrastructure. So it's very important that we invest in the state level and the federal level in our infrastructure. To that end, I'm sure you've heard about it, and I'm sure my boss, Governor Scott, will be announcing a record budget for transportation infrastructure for next year. And I can't thank our local Florida legislative leaders, Speaker Weatherford, President Gates, Senator Joyner, others who have been very supportive of state of Florida doing its part in investing in infrastructure. But I can tell you, with that piece of good news comes a little bit of scary news. And that's what I know Secretary Foxx is going to talk about. The Federal Highway Trust Fund is currently scheduled to go broke by end of July into August. If U.S. Congress does not extend the funding or supplement the Highway Trust Fund, it's going to have a devastating effect on infrastructure projects all around the country. Florida is also going to be paying the price for that. We are much better situated because we only rely to the tune of 35% of federal funds, but you cannot take 35% of the federal funds out of our budget and hope that projects don't get delayed. So it's very important that I know Mayor, our legislative leaders, Governor Scott and I, we're all going to be working with, and I know Congressman Castor here, we need Congress to at the very least extend MAP 21, but for long term, to make investment in infrastructure, needs to have a bill that invests in our infrastructure. Projects like this, because at the end of the day, this equates to good quality jobs, good quality of life, and is the foundation for Tampa Bay, for state of Florida, for our country to grow. So with that, it's my honor to invite Congresswoman Castor here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm U.S. Congresswoman Kathy Castor. I represent the Tampa Bay area. And I am grateful that Secretary Foxx is here to check on the progress here at Interstate 275. I-275 is the artery that connects our community from Pinellas through Hillsborough to Polk up to Pasco County. It makes us a strong region all working together. It's important for businesses, it's important for commuters, and like I said, it is, like the mayor said, this is the lifeblood of our community. So it's great news that we heard from Skanska and Ajax today, our local contractors, that it's on schedule. They're going to reopen part of the ramp here at the end of June up to Mabry Highway. So the news on the current project is very positive, and it's very good. The challenge is going to be looking forward to see if the United States Congress believes in growing America and investing in infrastructure and transportation. Our community depends on a beautiful, functioning airport in Tampa International Airport. We depend on Port Tampa Bay to move goods and products. And we depend on our highway system. The challenge is going to be, there are folks in the U.S. Congress that question whether or not the federal government has a role to play in transportation and infrastructure anymore. Can you believe that? Because projects like this do not get accomplished without that federal-state partnership. So we're fortunate to have a fighter in the Secretary's office at federal DOT. Mayor Buckhorn, you're absolutely right. His experience as the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, getting things accomplished is going to prove very useful in the U.S. Congress. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our champion for transportation and infrastructure, someone that is going to fight to grow America, and in doing so will help Tampa Bay grow and prosper. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Anthony Foxx, the DOT Secretary.
Hello and good afternoon, Tampa. It's great to be with you. And I do want to say a great thank you to Paul Steinman for the welcome here. And to my good friends from the Secretary, my great friend Bob Buckhorn, your mayor, one of the finest mayors in the entire United States of America.
Only since you left.
I can now say he's the best mayor in America. but a great friend and a great person beyond that. And to the Senator and to Congresswoman Castor, I just want to thank all of you for being here today and for your leadership, which is going to be critical as we move forward. You know, when I look out at this traffic today, it raises for me another issue, which is that imagine our country with 100 million more people and the lines of traffic that are coming that you don't even see today because that's in the future. This project is a combination of a lot of things. It's partnership at the federal and state and local levels. It's collaboration. Frankly, the mayor knows this, the secretary knows this. There isn't a Democratic or Republican road in America. Everybody uses our transportation system, and everybody needs it. And yet, as we sit here today, previous speakers are exactly right. In this project, DOT was very proud to have just put in just over half of the money of the $1.8 billion that it took the TIS project to happen. And we're here to celebrate the great effort. But the fact of the matter is that were this project still on the cutting room floor today, were it still on the board or on the map, it might be further delayed or perhaps stopped altogether because of the funding uncertainty in Washington. The fact of the matter is, as a country, we do need to invest more. We do need to relieve these choke points. But more importantly, we need to plan for the future. And that's what the President and I are talking about as we put together a $302 billion package that won't just get the Highway Trust Fund back to level. We will invest more in infrastructure in this country, creating more jobs, creating more mobility, creating better quality of life, and moving America forward. I want to thank one other group that's out here today. That's these great construction workers who are showing what America can do when we put our muscle behind ourselves. Let's give the construction workers here a big round of applause for what they're doing. And there's another thing I want to say today, and you all know this. Projects take too long in America. This project was originally thought about in 1989, 25 years ago. Just imagine that. Where were you in 1989? I know where I was. I was trying to find a prom date. 1989. 25 years later, here we are, it's finally getting done. Well, part of what we're endeavoring to do with our legislation is to accelerate projects, to unlock some of the stalled projects that happen because of the permitting process at every level. And that's what we're going to do if we can get Congress to act. And we think we can do it without compromising the integrity of projects or the integrity of the environment. Now, the reality is, in order to get this done, Congress has to act. Now, your Congresswoman here, she's all for it. She's ready to go. But we've got 434 other people to work on in the House and another 100 or so in the Senate. It's going to take Americans raising this issue up to their members of Congress and telling them that this kind of traffic is unacceptable in America. This kind of congestion is unacceptable in America. There are parents that are trying to get their kids home from school. There are folks that need to go to the doctor or whatever who are being held up by this kind of traffic. And folks, I'm telling you, it's going to get worse if we don't get ahead of it right now. So my message to you is very simple. We've got a bill. We've got a way to pay for it. Let's tee it up, and let's move it forward so America can move forward. Let's put millions of Americans back to work. Let's build on the success of the growth in manufacturing, which we're seeing more today in this country than we've seen in the last 15 years. Let's build on that by creating the infrastructure we need to move forward. Let's relieve the congestion. Let's save ourselves some time. Let's improve commerce. Let's help freight movements across this country. Let's build America. Let's grow America and pass the Grow America Act. So thank you very much. It's great to be with you.